Hello, it's Aimee, and welcome to the very last setup for 2025. What a journey it has been. Like last month, I struggled to come up with a theme idea for December as well. I started listing things out that reminded me of December, and one of the ideas that came up was gingerbread cookies. As I was sketching things out, my family and I were watching the Shrek movies, and in the second one, there was a scene of creating a large gingerbread man. That inspired me to make this cover page. I outlined my sketch with a brown micron pen, making sure to leave skipped spaces for the frosting. With the hat and frosted areas, I used a gray micron pen so that it was light enough for me to see when I color and allowed me to erase the pencil marks for my sketch. I used my Tombow brush pens to color in my drawings. For next year's spreads, I have debated on whether or not I want to continue using my Tombow brush pens for my cover pages. When it comes to coloring in large spaces, the streaks on the image are starting to bug me a bit. I could use the blending marker, but it can be tedious to use for every spot. I don't know, we'll see how I feel. Let me know what you prefer for coloring. For the piping bag, I changed up the coloring so I can achieve the look of the gingerbread man squeezing frosting everywhere. I tried my best to make it pop out of the page more by adding shadows and highlights, but it didn't turn out exactly how I wanted it to. At the very least, it helped add color to the page. With the cover page done, I begin working on the calendar. I wanted to have a full page calendar again and also added some lettering to match the theme. I started off with the same brown fineliner to outline my sketch. Then I filled in the lettering with my brush pen, making sure to only fill in the gingerbread part. I could have used a white gel pen for the frosting, but I did it this way to keep the frosting as white as possible. I used the same color from the cover page to make splatter shapes for each day of the week. I then outlined the calendar and the boxes for the dates. On the bottom of the calendar, I added a section for any notes or important things that I want to get done this month. With the calendar done, I move on to the weeklies. This month, I will be making 5 different weekly layouts. They will be layouts that will have sections for doodles, or if not doodles, extra space for things that you'd like to track or for notes. I went with both approaches, where I will have my menu and habit trackers, as well as doodles to match this month's theme. I took inspiration from gingerbread cookies on Pinterest to decide which shapes I wanted to doodle for the weeklies. What I love about these doodles are that they are simple enough to draw, and I love the look of them after I add in shading and textures. Beside the doodles, I included my menu and habit trackers. I used the fine tip side of my brush pens to outline the sections for each day of the week. To add a bit more color to the pages, I wrote in the days of the week using my red and green brush pens. I'm not used to writing with a hard tip brush pen, so some of the lettering came out a little wonky. One weekly down, 4 more to go. This next weekly will be split up horizontally in thirds. The middle area is where I will be placing my doodles, but I think switching up to the bottom or top could work just as well. I skipped a lot of the doodle steps since it was getting to be a bit repetitive, and then went on to splitting each section into 4s. I used red and green to add a touch of color and to match the previous weekly. I then brush lettered in the days of the week. With my habit tracker, I went with numbering each habit referenced on the first weekly, so that way I didn't have to keep writing each task over and over again. Next up is the third weekly layout. For this weekly, I went with having my doodles in the corners of this spread. At this point of the setup, I was getting pretty exhausted because I've been drawing for hours, and knowing that I had 2 more spreads after this to do, I kept the doodles on this one very simple. I did vertical boxes for the weeklies using the same red and green marker to outline them. I'm happy I went with this approach because the shapes were simple and the coloring took no time at all to complete. I finish up this spread with lettering in the days of the week and the headers for the trackers using a white gel pen. For the next weekly layout, I still went with the vertical sections approach, but this time having all of them together instead of split up. The empty space on top is for any doodles or designs that you can include. For me, I took up part of the top area for my habit tracker and menu. Since the doodles were getting to be a bit repetitive, I decided to design different ones for this spread. I made a little reindeer, snowman, and mittens for my gingerbread cookies. To wrap up the last weekly for this month and year, I wanted to do something a little bit extra. I cut out some scrap paper that I will be using to paste as a background for the doodles I sketched out. I did the doodles on a separate piece of paper so that I can cut them out and arrange them on top of the background freely. I think that this is a great method for a quick setup if you have stickers on hand to fill in the empty spaces as well, especially since the only thing left to finish it is sectioning out the days of the week. I enjoyed drawing these out for the last time because they were larger doodles than the previous ones, and it was the last spread of 2025. The previous doodles I was rushing a bit, but I tried to take my time with these ones now that it was the final stretch. After cutting out all of the doodles and arranging them onto the page, I regretted not doing a background for my other spreads because it turned out so good. This is a great lesson to have for my upcoming spreads though, and I suggest it for your own spreads as well if you have designed scrap paper. After arranging the doodles and pasting them down, I wrote down the days of the week with simple lettering and added some final touches. There were a lot of things that I learned this year about myself. I always start off very strong with my goals, and then after the first quarter, I noticed that I fall off a lot. I experienced a lot of burnout, and I think some of it stemmed from being on social media too much. Taking a step away from it has helped me clear my head, and taking the time to be in the moment more reignited my joy to create. Maybe it's because I'm trying to plan ahead this time and it's getting closer to the new year, but I don't want this energy to die. Next year will be a nice reflection of that. It'll be my 5th year of personal bullet journaling, and I look forward to sharing this part of my journey with you. Thank you so much for watching. I wish you a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. I hope the next year will bring good fortune your way. Take care of yourself, and bye for now.